Well, welcome to this episode of Healing Courageously. Tonight we have a couple
Yay!
things going on tonight. We have a special guest as we promised you. But the other thing that we have tonight is this is our 100th episode of Healing Courageously. So I'm happy about that. I'm excited about that. It takes a lot to do these. It takes a lot to keep going. And the cool thing about that, we couldn't have asked for a better special guest to celebrate our hundredth
Yay.
our 100th episode with. With us tonight, like as we promised you, we have somebody here that's very special and dear in our heart. Elaine Tucker. We've been working with her for just about 6 years. We've been working with her. The one thing my wife and I don't do is we don't chase people. If you don't want your recovery, right? Well, then fine. I mean, we want it for you, but you got to want it more than we want it for you, right? So we have a rule: we don't chase nobody. But my wife told me one day, I will never ever let Elaine out of my grips. I will chase her to the ends of the earth.
And I did.
Yes.
Yeah,
And you still do.
And I still do.
Yeah, and Elaine drove out here today, this morning from California, which we're grateful for that. And also, she was able to surprise her son, who lives down by Chandler, right?
It's actually Levine.
Levine, Arizona. So they actually surprised him. So it's a great weekend for
Hi,
for
JJ,
Elaine.
because we know you're going to be listening.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's going to be about Elaine today. She's come so far in her journey. So many changes, so many. She would fight. She would fight against it, and then she would fight to get through it.
And fight with it.
And fight with it. I mean, she's just a fighter. Period. She's a ghetto girl. I mean, she's ghetto. I mean, when we were in Hawaii a couple years ago, I bought her a hat.
And
Ghetto.
That's what I was telling Mom. I kept the picture of you with the hat on as your contact. So I always remember
There
it's
you go,
on
yeah.
the wall. So when you call me.
Yeah, so she's come a long ways. But I'm going to actually let my wife do a lot of the talking with her. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy right now, because I'll just mess things up.
Oh, no,
I'm
you're
sitting
good.
between two women, which is very dangerous for me, because I always get in trouble when I'm sitting with two women.
That's funny. No, so tonight I'm really excited because we're closing out this week with our topic on boundaries. And this particular...
Actually, it's this year.
It is this year as well,
we're
this
closing
month
out.
and this year. It's
Right,
the last
right.
week of the year. And we've talked about boundaries all month long. We've had part 1 and part 2 of emotional boundaries. And then last week we did the consequences of not having boundaries. And today we're going to call this No is a Complete Sentence. And this is something that Elaine has worked on and is still working. I work on it. Gosh, I think we all work on it. So, but I want to start out, Elaine, just tell us a little bit about your journey, where you started, where you are, and then we'll kind of go from there.
So I was sharing with them. I think, if I remember correctly, I first met them in 2014, going to church, and then I started working on myself because I didn't have nothing wrong with me. I was completely perfect. And
That's why we all go to church, because we're all good.
I started in a recovery program, and I was like, well, there's some other things going on. So 2017 was when it really started. I got out of a toxic, unhealthy, abusive relationship, and started working on my recovery internally and everything that was going on. So from then, in January, it'll be 7 years since I've been alcohol-free, drug-free. So it's been quite a journey. Difficult, yes, but rewarding at the same time. So, and it's still ongoing. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, for those of people out there, any kind of sobriety from drugs or alcohol, it for a period of time, it can be a battle every single day. So it's no easy task. And
No,
so it's like,
Not at all.
if you make it one day, it's like, okay, great, that's wonderful. So you didn't drink today, we'll worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes, right?
Yeah.
We're not thinking into the future. So
Yeah.
it's so she's that in itself is a huge, especially with what you've been through.
And
Yeah.
you shared with me many times
Right.
about the 1 day at a time rule.
Right.
take it one day, and I never thought I would make it a month. I never thought I would make it 6 months, and then let alone almost 7 years. So it's just every day is one step ahead.
Yeah. And I think that one thing that is important for people to realize is that, and Randy can appreciate this too, is that you start out in your journey with your focus being one thing. And for each of you, it was your drugs and alcohol. But then once you kind of nip that, I don't want to say nip it, but once you get that under control and you understand why you were drinking or why you were using, then we start uncovering new things.
Yeah,
And
uncovers
so-
a lot of stuff.
So we've been on this journey now for the last 5 years of some of that new stuff, and being this month is boundaries. Tell me, did you know anything about boundaries prior to your journey,
No.
starting your journey?
Not at all.
What was what did the word boundary even mean to you at that
I
time?
don't think I ever knew the definition of boundary because I allowed so many people to walk over me. I was a people pleaser all the time, and I didn't learn that until I started working with you guys. Some of those definitions of what that looks like. Well, maybe you need to set a boundary, and you guys have taught me, like, you know, no is no, and also how do you feel? Wait, what does that look? What does that situation look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? So, no, I never knew the word boundary and didn't know how to set them, and I'm still struggling to set them in certain areas of my life.
Yeah.
But that's the ongoing mentoring that you guys are working with me, and what's my part in that
Yeah.
boundary.
Exactly.
So
Because we like to
yeah.
say when we quit the drugs and the alcohol, now we have nothing anesthetizing and covering up all the
Right.
feelings and emotions. So that's where the real work starts.
Yeah.
You know, in which you've been really working hard at it.
So I guess thinking about boundaries and stuff, what did you discover about yourself besides the fact you didn't know what boundaries were? Was there ever a time that you tried to set a boundary and then you pulled back because it was uncomfortable?
Absolutely.
Tell me what that was kind of like for you, and if there was any
I think there's
specific situation that you can think of.
specifics like not so much dating, but being in situationships and not giving myself the freedom to say no and making sure that it was about them
Right.
and it wasn't about me. And I didn't know how to say no because I would open that door and close it. And then open it because I was lonely or feeling tired or, you know, and then close it and then open it and then close it. So there was no boundary. It was just kind of like a revolving door. And that affected not only my work, not only that situationship, and that was a long time to 4 years to allow someone to continuously come in and out because I allowed it. I
Right.
didn't set that boundary and I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So in what you just said too is how many years prior to that had you allowed that behavior to go on, right? I mean, so 25, 30 years.
Yeah, so
right?
I'm okay with saying my age. I'm fine with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I'm 44 now, and I think as a child dealing with abandonment issues and all
Right.
the things that we've uncovered, I don't think I've ever set that. So it's been, a good probably like 30 something
Yeah.
years of not knowing what to do and how to do it.
And so what we're doing with Elaine and what in recovery, what we're doing is we're replacing old behavior with new behavior, but it's not going to happen overnight. It can't. You've got
Right.
years of this stuff just grind into you, and so that's what she was kind of explaining. Open the door, close the door, open the door, close the door. But at least she was going back and forth, right? And
Right.
you were doing the work. Not, and it just takes. That's what it takes.
And I think that you've explained that, Kathy. I call her Ma and Pops because that's who they are to me. They kind of like, they've adopted me as a child of God and a daughter because I've lost both my parents. So, looking to both of you, it reminds me of what you always shared with me that, did you learn something new this time? Did it change? Did you learn quicker? Did it kind of like, instead of being 3 weeks, it was 2 days.
Right.
So there's your change.
Right.
Identify what you just
And I think
uncovered.
that's really, really important to remember is that, like you say, these changes take time, but there's been times where you have beaten yourself up and you've come to me, I'll just say, like a dog with the tail between your legs because you've gotten so discouraged that I have to remind you, wait a minute, you did notice it sooner and you didn't respond the same way you didn't. And the one thing I love about Elaine, she goes, I thought it. She always says, I thought it. I said, great. Think about it all you want.
Yeah.
Just don't act on it. And I think that's what's key is that's the progress that you make. And so we have to remember that even those little tiny baby steps is progress. And that's progress in the right direction.
See, I think that's the importance of having mentors and coaches in your
Absolutely.
life.
Yeah.
Because, even when I was going through my early recovery and all this, I would beat myself up. I'm making these changes. I don't see them, so I'm beating myself up because how come I'm tripping? How come this is happening? And my mentor, my coach, and my wife would go, Randy, but look how far you've come. Okay, it's okay. It's gonna take time for this behavior to settle into you.
And I think, as you and I too both know, because Mas pointed it out to both of us, like, it's hard to understand or it's hard to retain the fact that we've done something so good and
Right.
acknowledge ourselves
Right.
in that good
Right.
because we've never been, hey, you did a good job, Randy.
Right.
Hey, Elaine, you did a good job. Not enough of reminding who we've become or what we're doing,
Right.
and it's tough.
That's
Yeah.
why I tell you, give yourself a hug. Come on, show me. Give yourself a hug right now. Hug yourself. Sometimes we have to do that. I want to talk about, you and I talk about a lot about no is a complete sentence. And I know I can struggle with it. We all can struggle with that sometimes. What causes you to not want to say no? Kind of go into, why do you always feel like you have to say yes? You've had a recent situation where you were feeling guilty because you didn't do something. But what is that feeling what causes you to hold you back from saying no?
The feeling of not, for example, me coming out here and me feeling like, oh man, I'm going to disappoint her because I'm not coming like I said I was.
Mm-hmm.
Or even in certain environments where I'm like, well, I don't want to say no because what's going to be the after effect and who am I not pleasing? Because who cares about my feelings? It's not about me. I want to please you because I don't want to upset you or piss someone off. And I think that's was always my leading thought. It's not about me on how I feel. It's like, okay, they're going to be mad at me. They're not going to want to talk to me or whatever it may be. And then it leads you down the rabbit hole, that abandonment issue. I'm getting left behind. I'm not the cool person. I said no,
I want to go back even deeper than that, though, and I know you're open to this, so
Absolutely.
I'm not afraid. Where do you think that comes from?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Who's
I
telling
love,
you that stuff?
I know the enemy likes to tell me, because I'm a believer, I'm a believer in Christ, and as you guys are, and he likes to remind me of my old self, and remind me that, oh, well, if you don't do that, they're not going to like you, and if you don't do this, and it's that constant bickering of the good one and the bad one, and like you've shared with me, you got to just flick them off your shoulder and remind, like, no, I'm a child of God. No, I'm not going to do that. That is
And
not me
typically,
anymore.
something like that comes from your childhood.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
something
let's just say,
from
let's
your
go a little
past,
deeper.
Yeah.
deeper than
Because
just the enemy.
The enemy, what he knows best is our past.
Right.
So yeah, he's gonna attack it, but the question becomes is go deeper.
And that's what
Word.
you guys have shared, and I don't mind sharing. I love both my parents, and of course, unfortunately, they've passed on, but unfortunately, it was a toxic household.
Yeah.
My father was an alcoholic. He did not admit it to it at all. I can remember, but he stopped drinking as his grandchildren got older. And then, unfortunately, my mom was a people pleaser, so she would chase my dad. Unfortunately, there was decisions that he made of being out in the street or being intoxicated and at places he shouldn't have been. And then I would find her picking me up out of the bed in the middle of the night, going to look for him and finding him, and then it'd be like conversations and yelling, and this was disruptive, and that led to that abandonment feeling, the people pleasing, the not making people unhappy because I didn't do what they wanted me to do. And it just, that whole retrospective, like you've talked about, it leads back to where you came from.
Yeah.
What was your environment? What did it look like?
It's learned behavior from your mom, always chasing.
Yeah.
Right? You were always
And
chasing. Right?
They both know I've done a lot of chasing.
Looking for that love in all the wrong places.
Absolutely.
And I think that happens. And, we talk about it a lot through this podcast and different topics, but we have to go back to the underlying causes and conditions to get to the root
Yeah, you
of what
have to.
our problem is
You have
and
to.
and what we're struggling with. And a lot of times sometimes it might feel shameful, but there's nothing to be ashamed of when
No.
it's something that you've grown up in. You
Yeah.
didn't have a choice.
And I think because we all know at times in our lives back in the day, it was not common for you to express what you've
Right.
been through.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shunned and you
Right.
weren't welcomed because that couldn't have happened to you.
We were
Nothing
told
could.
not
Yeah.
to talk back to your
Yeah,
parents,
yeah.
you know, and
He's such an angel. He's such a saint. It's like, okay, that's what you
Yeah.
want to think.
I can
you know?
remember even for myself, I would get my mouth washed out with soap if I talked back. So then all of a sudden I learned not to say anything and
Yeah.
not to have a voice.
Yeah.
And so
that's-
then I had to figure out how to do this all by myself, and that people pleasing came in because I didn't want to have my mouth washed out with soap, you
How
know.
come you're not people pleasing me?
Oh God, here we go
I
again.
mean, if you're such a people pleaser, you should be pleasing me. I'm your husband.
Yeesh. Oh yeah.
Number one.
Oh, you are my number
Number
one.
uno.
You are my number one.
I am your number uno.
So I have a question, and this is something that I think is really important for people to hear too, is that very first time you said no, that very first time you decided, I'm going to say no, what were you feeling? What was that emotion? And
Oh, I can remember exactly how it felt. It was just, man, that felt so good to finally use my voice.
yeah,
And then, you have that moment where like, was that okay? Did I do the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
That felt so good. I want to do that again. And then you still have that apprehensive
Mm-hmm.
thought of, okay, I'm going to do it again. But then you're still kind of like a little bit on the eggshell. But I'll never forget knowing that I could tell someone no, because it made me so uncomfortable. Or getting out of that toxic relationship and finally standing up for myself and saying, God, this is so unhealthy. I remember leaving that relationship that day, and I remember being like at my first call, I was like, I'm out, I'm free. And I remember hearing the birds. I remember looking up at the sky. It was raining, but I remember seeing color. And I know it sounds weird, but that's the way I felt. Like I felt like I was in darkness for so long, and I could finally see color. And I remember bawling my face off, but I was free.
just that, no, I'm not going to accept this
Absolutely.
anymore.
And
Yeah.
I walked and kept walking. I didn't look back.
Yeah. And then, I think too, this happens, you were empowered with that no, but like you said, you start thinking about it and stuff. Then all of a sudden you're in work environments or you're at home with your kids. It's different in every environment to use that word, but the emotions, I think, probably feel very similar.
It feels similar, but it's still, and I know it's still a struggle, but the emotions can be joyous at the same time. I don't want for example, I don't want my kids to hate me. Are they going to hate me? Are they going to dislike me? Because I even felt last night, and that's the true, honest feeling. Rayla, am I disappointing you? Because I'm not going like I promised, and I don't like to set promises because I don't want to set an expectation I can't fulfill.
Right.
And
Right.
you guys have taught me that too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, everyone's good, but I'm not going to lie. Sitting there, I'm like, man, are they going to get mad at me? Are they going to hate me? Are they gonna you know what I mean? So I worked through it, like I'm telling you, and it was accepted and it was okay.
Yeah.
And I think, Elaine, too, I say this a lot to you. I'm sure Mom does too. But the thing that's important is to remember that you're a daughter of God, right? And and anybody around you needs to be treating you as such, right? Not that they gotta worship you, none of that, but they gotta be treating you with the respect that Christ would be treated with. It's like I think you used to hear me say all the time. I don't know if I said it with you and Albert, but if God was to come down right now, sit in our living room when we're doing a couples counseling, right? And I talk on men, right? You know that.
Yeah.
God went to just say Randy, right? And said, Randy, you know that daughter, that woman that I gave you to take care of, that married, that I let you marry, and I gave her to you to cherish, take care of, and honor. Yes. Well, how have you been treating her? How can you? I mean, I don't care if you're married is important, but as a daughter of God, even in a work spot, how are people treating you?
Yeah.
Because you're a daughter of God. And there was a period of time in our marriage where probably 4 or 5 years where if God would have come down and asked that question,
Yeah.
I'd have been sent straight to hell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's different today, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the grace of God that works on
Yeah.
us. So it's the same thing with you in the workplace and so on. You always remember, who am I?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a daughter of the Most High.
Yeah. I think, Elaine, you mentioned something, you talking about Rayla and being disappointing your kids. I think something that's really important too that you and I talk about a lot is that our behavior, remember, everything we learned was a learned behavior
Right.
from our parents, or in relationships. And then now we have kids, and all of a sudden our kids are learning behaviors. And I know that's one of the things that you have really reiterated is you don't want your kids.
Right.
Well, you already know that your kids have picked up some of those learned
absolutely.
behaviors.
We learned that today, remember?
Yeah, we did. But the fact that I think what's beautiful in this is that, and I don't care, I don't think it matters what age your kids are, is the fact that they're watching you.
Yeah.
And so I know that that empowers you
Yeah.
a lot to know that you are making a change, not only for yourself, but for your kids' future as well. Do you have anything you want to add to that? Because I know that it's so important. You've got the 2 girls at home, and then
Right.
your son is living in Arizona. But how important is that to you? And what do you do on a regular, or like, I know that there's times when you say, okay, I've goofed, I've screwed up. Tell me how you handle those situations with your kids when you feel like you've stepped back instead of stepped forward.
Immediately apologize and word it, not just like, oh, I'm sorry. No. What am I sorry for?
Yeah.
What was the why?
Right.
It was, was I, no matter the excuse, whether it's work or whether it's, struggling with my own identity that day or whatever it may be, what was my why? What caused the trigger for me to act back out and step back? And did I acknowledge them? And you guys are big about saying, how was their integrity in that conversation? I'm really sorry I hurt your feelings. I'm really sorry I caused you distress, or if there was a trigger that, just driving down driving your car, there's a lot of things internally that I'm working on, and I express that, I'm sorry this came from this place. I deal with abandonment issues. I deal with the abuse. I deal with, there's just so many factors that come into those triggers, and I just want to make sure I acknowledge what I did wrong instead of just a blanket, I'm sorry.
Right.
You didn't acknowledge what you did wrong. That also acknowledge the fact that I'm working on it to become a better mother for you.
And their feedback is important because, still, I'm going to be human and be like, I don't like that. And like we know today, the truth can hurt.
Yeah.
But if I don't hear it, then I'm going to keep making that mistake.
Right.
I'm going to keep hurting.
Exactly.
Yeah, you need to know what they're feeling, and I think that's one thing that you're really good at, is having those conversations and those dialogue with your kids, and then being available to listen and actually hear what they have, what their input is. And I think that's great, because as parents, we don't want to hear, I mean, you had that issue with Alyssa on your Betty Ford treatment, sitting knee to knee with her, and you had to hear some really painful things that were affecting your relationship with her.
And I just saw this broken little girl sitting in front of me. It's like, oh, what did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah. So as we start closing down, Elaine, is there anything that you would want to share for anybody that might be either on the journey, considering life coaching, a mentor? What is it that has helped you the most, and what kind of encouragement would you give to somebody?
Oh, man. I don't know if we have enough time.
Give it what you got. We got plenty.
My main factor is Pops wrote a book. So, healing the wounded child within, quickly as I can. That book changed my life. Changed my life. I dealt with the smallest thing, going to the dentist.
Yeah.
And I would freak out, didn't want to go, I could not handle it. I'd have an anxiety attack, trigger, I'm out of here. You come anywhere near my mouth, I'm like, whoa.
Right.
Explain what you're doing. But reading that chapter, and he's like, you know why? Because they're invading your space. And someone who either sexually assaulted you, something that happened triggered that response. And in that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, that puzzle piece fit. And there's chapters of being your authentic self. What is that? I didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
And once I picked up on that authentic self, I was like, well, I don't want to let that go, because that's who I want to be, because that's who God's called me to be.
Yeah.
And finding people who will mentor you, that you allow to speak in your life. Not just, we all know pastors are great. We all know friends are great. But we also know people will redirect us in the wrong way if they don't have enough knowledge in that area.
Right.
And both you guys have dealt with things close to me that I've experienced, so like, you're going the wrong direction. You're doing this, you're doing that. And if you're just starting, don't give up. I think my moment was when we were in a recovery program. That blue chip was your beginning chip. I had to retake that chip one day, and that broke me in a good way, but it still gave me the positivity to know, like, okay, it's cool, dust yourself off, all right, let's try it again.
Here we go.
And every time if I have a mess up, hey, Ma, Pop, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
one thing you're good at.
yeah.
You're really good at telling on yourself.
And I have to, because if I don't, who's going to keep me accountable?
Right.
Because
Accountability is big.
And we all have emotional relapses.
Absolutely.
So I got a question going back to the dentist. So how did you resolve that problem, that issue?
Well, after talking with you and reading, like, knowing, like, I'm safe, it's okay, they're doing something to help me, and it's not, you're in charge of the situation, they're not just coming at you.
Right.
And just knowing, putting that puzzle piece together, I'm safe in that moment, I'm okay, this is for a reason, no one's going to harm me, and I had to connect, and being able to know that, okay, he's doing a job, or she's doing a job.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that before. I was complete, but I had to be open-minded about what you were expressing.
Right.
That's good.
And I had to be able to listen, not just wanting to, I know it all, that's fine.
Yeah.
You have to be open-minded and be willing to listen and be willing to be firmly willing to be corrected in a good way.
That's good.
Because I'm human, and I didn't like it, and it feels very uncomfortable. But if I didn't have you guys telling me, that's not good, I don't think this, how about you try this way, Elaine, because this is what you need to know, or this is where you need to go. Maybe this will work better. It's just important to have people that you trust.
Did you say anything to the dentist at all?
No, I never did.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Nice.
I never did.
Never had to.
That's really good.
No. I think
that's
the response was originally like, what's going on? But after putting the pieces together and you talking me down off the ledge, because we use that common statement a lot, because I'll get so anxious and overwhelming and feeling like that, like I'm spinning. And you always tell me, Elaine, you're spinning. Take a breath.
Unwind.
And that's why it's important to have people you trust, people who you speak in your life, and only allowing those that you give permission to speak into your life.
Exactly.
And I think too that one thing that we have to be really mindful of, and we've talked about it before, is making sure that you're not talking to people that are just going to agree with you, because not always is that the best. Sometimes there might be certain simple things that's not going to hurt. But if they haven't experienced it, they haven't walked through it, they haven't been in your shoes, you have to be very mindful
Cannot
that you're
transmit something you do not have.
right.
It's
Exactly. Yeah.
And the thing with recovery is you're taking. The reality is, you're taking risk.
Yeah. Every day.
Of new behavior. It's like you said, have somebody you can trust, because Kathy and I aren't gonna tell you to do anything or suggest that you do anything that we haven't already done and we know it's successful.
Right.
And that's the key to it, because you are jumping into a world of unknown, and it's like an uncomfortableness, right?
Everything opposite of what you've ever done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's like we often say you live in the sea of uncomfortableness. And in that there's love and peace, but there's all sorts of different things, chaos and whatnot. And you're really comfortable living in that uncomfortableness because you know how to navigate it, right?
You got the roadmap.
Yeah. And she's, Ma's reminded me that a lot of times.
Right.
You're good at doing that.
Yeah. But why don't you try this?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we step out of that circle, out of that sea of uncomfortableness, now we're trying a new behavior. it's completely foreign to us. It's
Absolutely.
like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
And so that's why, again, having a mentor or a coach to help you through all this is absolutely key. You cannot do it alone.
No.
You just cannot.
Well, doing it alone has got you where you were.
Isolation is what got me exactly
Yeah.
doing it and knowing, and I still openly struggle, and I'll tell somebody that, you know,
Yeah.
hey, I still struggle with isolation. And Mom's like, hey, you disappeared, or somebody will remind me, and it's like relearning that behavior to know it's okay to be friends, it's okay to step outside of the box, it's okay to do things that are uncomfortable,
Right.
but that are good for you.
Yeah, in
Not
a healthy
the
way.
other ones that are unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah, if I don't hear from her for a little bit of time, she'll
Yeah.
get a text. The text will just say, knock, knock.
And it's true, but that's the thing that, you know, if anybody wants to consider or is considering, or even if you don't have the funds, you guys have shared so many times and on the podcast that just take the moment to reach out and just give us that 30 minutes.
30-minute consultation. Yeah, free
consultation.
consultation.
And I wouldn't steer anybody wrong. And I stand on Randy's book completely. For anyone as a woman, even though it, you know, like was still working on my inner child.
Inner
And
child.
I'm struggling with dealing with that because I'm not giving the proper time, but that's my problem.
Right.
And I'm learning to fix
Right,
that. That
right.
doesn't have anything to do with them. That has to do with me. So that's that
Exactly.
accountability of saying to them, this is what I'm struggling. And still you giving me the grace. But if you're struggling out there and you want help, reach out. They will help you navigate how you feel in the moment. Just don't be scared. Fear is good, but you can face it and rise above it.
Yeah.
And just keep working on it and don't be afraid, because I kid you not, you guys will never look back.
Yeah, it's the people that say, well, I want coaching, I want the therapy, and it didn't work. Well, my voice on that is, it didn't work because you didn't work. You know, we can coach you all, and we can coach you till the moon goes up and down, but if you're not going to take part in your own recovery by doing the work that's required, you're not going to move forward.
Elaine said it, being intentional,
Yes.
being open, and being willing. I
Yeah.
think those are the three things that are
Yeah.
really important in your journey. Is you have to be open, you have to be willing, and be intentional about doing it. And honesty helps a lot along the way.
Yeah, because it's easy to lie. I can manipulate the situation.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done all those. I have no problem saying that I have, because that was the person that was afraid of not pleasing people. And so it all comes back to those circles of what we've uncovered from a child young, of being abandoned, abused, everything you can think of. Everything has a connection to where it began.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
inner child that either wasn't given
Yeah.
enough attention,
Yeah.
wasn't loved enough, wasn't, given, that those thoughts of encouragement, like all of those.
Yeah. They all add up.
It's sad because too many people go, well, I don't want to talk about my past, and I don't want to talk about my parents. You hear this all the time. I had a great childhood. I had a nice house. I had this. I had that. But did you have your parents? Did you have their emotional support?
Yeah.
And we don't go to the parents.
Right.
You know this, so that you hate them.
Right.
We
No,
don't
no.
want that. We got to go there to figure out,
To understand.
understand
Yeah.
where our issues are coming from.
Yeah.
And that in a lot of ways, that's how I was able to forgive my stepfather.
Yeah, that's good.
And people look at me like I'm absolutely out of my head for doing it, but you know what? My therapist took me on a journey about what his life might have been like.
Yeah.
It's like, dang.
Yeah.
And I fought her on it, but you've got to have an open mind.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest key to this. So I love this. I like having another person in here.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do this more often.
Yeah.
It kind of makes the conversations fun.
Yeah, maybe
So-
we need to step up our game a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
You know?
So, Elaine, thanks for doing this with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out
Thank
to
you
do
for
it with
allowing
us.
me to be here.
Oh, yeah, no, this was
It's
awesome.
been
So,
amazing.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I know you know that, and I'm
I
super
don't.
proud of you. Get out of here. I'm super proud of you.
I said in between the two of you didn't get in trouble tonight.
Yet the night's still young.
And by the way, I took it back old school for everyone that's
Yeah.
watching.
Start the
Start
conversation.
the conversation was
Yes.
a amazing road trip that you did, and I've already heard you that you're going to be talking about it someday soon, or maybe writing a book. You know,
I need to write a book. On
Yeah,
it,
that's
a
I
book
really
right there.
do.
what an amazing thing that you did, and open the conversation for both men, women, children, all of the
All
above.
of the above.
And don't be afraid.
Start the
No.
conversation. So,
Oh.
I think that was all that I have in the dialogue today. Did you have something you wanted to share?
No, I really appreciate Elaine. She's like my spiritual daughter all the time. You know, I always whenever I text her, I always say, "Hello, my beautiful spiritual daughter." You know,
And I appreciate
I
that.
know you do. I know
I
you
do.
do. So, she's come a long way. Kathy does most of the work with her. I've worked with her a little bit, but Kathy does most of it. But she comes to me when
Absolutely,
she has
'cause
to. Right?
Or I turn her over to him
Yep.
when I'm like, oh my goodness, how do we do this?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
that
yeah.
valuing your opinion, because all the stuff that you know, and then, like you guys have always shared, his discernment is on point.
Oof. It's intense sometimes, so
Yeah, it is.
that's good.
That's
So
a gift. That's a tough gift.
that's
to have.
enough.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a great one.
So, but you know, Elaine, thank you. This makes
Thank
it
you.
even the 100th episode even more
So excited.
special.
So
that
Yeah.
we have
amazing.
you
It's been
here.
great.
You know how much we love you and
I love you
adore
guys too.
I mean,
Yeah.
So, starting January,
In January, we're going to kick off a new year.
and we're going to talk about SMART goals.
Smart goals. Randy's got some smart goals he's going to share for the month of January.
Yeah, it's let's not go on this New Year's resolution,
Resolution.
that everybody seems to do for about 3 days and then they fail. Okay, but let's talk about some SMART goals.
We're gonna
that
set
for the
you
year.
up
We're
for
gonna-
the
yeah,
year,
We're gonna
yeah.
set you up for the year. So
So good.
yeah, that'll be starting next week, the first week of
January. Yep.
Right, so we're looking forward to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then February is going to be an exciting month because we
The
got
month of
the
love.
month of love, and we have 3 of the couples that we have mentored
Oh, that's awesome.
joining us. So one on each week. So that's going to be an exciting adventure.
Yeah, we got
too.
some
So,
good things planned.
Yeah.
So,
right.
just a reminder that to sign up, reach out to us at Change Your Life Story Now for your 30-minute free consultation. I knew I was going to say that at one point or another. 30-minute free consultation. It can be on anything. I mean, this month was on boundaries, but if you're struggling with something else in your life, reach out to us. Let us get that opportunity to get you started in start the year off working on yourself, giving yourself that ability to heal from the things of your any scars, anything that you're dealing with. We would love to help you work through. Just want to remind you that we do have our foundation, the Courageous Healers Foundation, which is our nonprofit foundation that helps men, women, children, and families work through the scars of abuse. It can be any type of abuse that is there. We do work strictly on donations as a nonprofit. So if you have it in your heart that you would like to make a donation, whether it's a one-time donation or a monthly donation, you can go to Change Your Life Story Now, and there'll be a link that you can click on that will take you to that. If finances are not in the books right now, totally understand. We just ask that you keep us in prayer, that this foundation will continue to reach those in need.
Righto.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no affiliation between this and the foundation. We want to make that clear.
Yeah, this is totally a separate
Exactly.
Healing Courageously podcast is in conjunction with Change Your Life Story Now,
Yes.
which is our coaching
Right, exactly.
business. So
and with that, go to take a look at our website, changeyourlifestorynow.com. It's on the screen there. Check it out. See what we have. We do marriage counseling. I'm SIMBA certified. It's a phenomenal assessment. It's so much fun to do. And then plus we do addiction counseling, couples counseling. We do all sorts of different coaching.
make sure you like and share on our
Yes.
social media as well. That's important, as well as the YouTube channel. Like, share, put us in touch with anybody that might need
Right.
assistance. We're here to help.
And Elaine mentioned my book, Healing the Wounded Child Within. It is available on Amazon and paperback, Kindle, and Audible. And it's
Spanish.
available in Spanish as well.
Yeah, that's exciting.
We were gifted with some great talent that helped me do that for very minimal cost.
Yeah.
So, also my 30-day devotion with the wholeness, which is a great 30-day devotion that all I can tell you is you need to read it.
Check it out. Check it
You
out.
need to check it out, and then the 7-day challenge, which is a little workbook that goes with healing the wounded child within. All right.
You got it.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
You sure?
I
You
got
positive, Elaine?
positive.
Yeah, that's it.
You good, Elaine?
Yeah, I'm great.
All right. I'm not in trouble with either one of you.
No.
Wow.
Not yet. The night is still young.
Oh, that's right. We got to eat dinner, and then we're going to do some s'mores.
Oh, I'm so
We're
excited.
gonna have fire.
Oh,
We're gonna have a
man.
fire tonight.
All right.
So
fire
excited.
to go. All right. So thanks for joining us tonight. Remember this. If nobody tells you that they love you today, Randy does.
Kathy does.
Elaine does.
But more importantly, Hazel does.
Oh God.
And so does God.
That's right.
Be blessed,
Be
everybody.
blessed.
Bye,
Bye.
What?
This has been Healing Courageously with Randy Boyd.
I heard.
We will have a new episode every Monday. Please like us on iTunes or Google Play. If you would like to know more about the services available from Randy, please visit him at changeyourlifestorynow.com. Thank you for spending time with us. We'll see you next week. And remember, if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does.
I just noticed something on there. It says change your life story, not change your life story now.
It's all right.